Black lives matter worldwide till the end of time. We rising up. Can't nobody stop us. The love we got's colossal. We rising up. White supremacy, your throne's about to topple. We rising up.
We're interested in really trying to help young people navigate this transition into adolescence and through adolescence. Puberty emerges as a really important and complicated set of changes. And it's really valuable to think about at least two dimensions of puberty. And one is the physical development, just rapid physical changes of growing fast, changing, sexual maturation, face changing. And those dynamic changes are affecting lots of aspects of young people's lives and their sense of themselves. And the second dimension is it's also affecting their brains and their emotions and their tendencies to think and react and feel in new ways. And those two interact. It's not that it's one or the other. As you're changing in these ways and your role is changing and the world is treating you in different ways and you have different tendencies to react emotionally, some small changes in the biology can get amplified really quickly in social situations. And so thinking about puberty as a set of processes that on one hand create amazing changes. I mean, we should have the same sense of wonder about this phase of life as we do with an infant or a toddler. It's such an important time for positive learning experiences, and yet there's such a tendency to focus on the negative aspects of puberty. So one of the really important aspects as we think about puberty and the physical changes of puberty is that, first of all, it happens early, and it's been happening earlier. And that's been happening all over the world. And as we'll talk about in a moment, there's some variation in that across race, across social situations that can cause puberty to happen even earlier. But once puberty begins to happen, it's not only creating changes for the young person, but it's creating changes for how the world perceives that person. And the third part of this that I think is very important is it's a reason that we shouldn't use the term teenager. One of the reasons we should really think about not using the term teenager is it implies that it's 13 to 19, when in many ways the most dynamic, rapid changes are happening between 9 and 13. Let's just focus for a little bit about the young person's perspective here. They're trying to experiment with the new feelings they have and the complexities of their peers and how to get attention and how to navigate these situations. And if in that environment, someone, whether it's a peer or an adult authority, reacts in a way that puts them down, diminishes them, disrespects them, calls them out, that's hard enough to navigate for any of us in any situation. That's a deep social threat to be diminished or disrespected, especially at that age. But the second dimension of this is what makes us feel safe or not safe. Emotions are intense and bouncing around, and we're extra sensitive to being humiliated or disrespected. So you already have, it's stacked against you. Add in a couple other factors like trauma or not feeling that you are in a safe environment in your home or your community and your family. When we think about the lifespan, there's extra important things in this window of time. And not waiting until late adolescence and transition to adulthood when the problems are now presenting, but thinking about early adolescence in the same way we think about the first few years of life, like helping young people get to a good start. So this general idea of let's just do more for young people. But the second part is really equally important, if not more important. We need to be strategic. It's not what period of brain development is most important. It is how do we match what kind of learning is most powerful? And they're going to experiment. And that's not a bad thing. I sometimes make the analogy of, a toddler learning to walk takes about 14,000 steps a day and falls down 100 times a day. Now, we don't think of that as they're risk-taking or their brains aren't ready. That's just part of learning to walk. Adolescents are learning how to navigate social situations, and they're going to experiment, and they're going to fall down sometimes. And so recognizing that some of the mistakes they make is part of the empathy. They're not, that doesn't mean they're bad kids or they are, acting out. They're going to be experimenting with how to get a reaction from their peers, their reaction to themselves. They're trying things. And so I think being curious about that, like what an interesting thing. Why are kids doing this? I think if we recognize it's just part of learning how to navigate this awkward period of who am I in relation to a larger world and what matters to me and how, where can I contribute a value, not in words, but by experimenting, I think those are helpful lenses to look at young people.